Hello, my scholars. My name is Lauren Farrow. I talk about the education system, parenting, and culture here on this channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about what colleges are not preparing new teachers for and the reality of the American education system, tips and resources for new teachers, and of course, some imparting wisdom for any new or struggling teachers out there. So I'm going to start by giving you guys a little bit of background about me. And feel free to skip ahead. I'll have the chapters marked down in the description below. So I taught for half a school year and then subbed around my district for a full school year. Of course, that doesn't include my student teaching and my jobs where I worked with children. It's just officially in the classroom. Post-graduation, I taught for that amount of time. And my decision to leave the classroom was not a happy one. My heart was still with the students and teachers, and I honestly couldn't look away from the wildfire that is so rapidly spreading and growing. I know you'll say, well, you left teaching, so why should I listen to you? Well, because I was passed off a nightmare classroom from the literal edge of oblivion and had zero support from my admin, I really want to help other teachers and give them the support that I so desperately needed when I was a teacher. And so you don't have to go through what I went through, because honestly, it was a really heartbreaking experience. I will be publishing a video going into way more detail about my personal experience. But anyway, let's get right into the video. So you're here and you clicked on this video because either you're a new or struggling teacher, you're interested in growth or development, or maybe you're just curious about the education system. And to that, I welcome all of you. As much as we can spread these conversations beyond the four walls of a school, the better. I just want to say something to the teachers out there. You are becoming a teacher for a greater good. Maybe you consider yourself an activist at heart. You want to see the world a better place. Don't let anyone burn your light out. Don't let anyone tell you this profession doesn't mean anything just because you don't have anything materialistic to show for it. And above all, do not listen to someone when they tell you to treat it like it's just a job. Because I disagree. I feel like we need to raise the bar. We are literally raising the future generation of leaders, of voters, of taxpayers, American citizens, doctors, lawyers, like the list goes on. We have to hold our students to higher standards. The reason why so many teachers lower their expectations is because they're jaded, because college institutions and college education programs are just not adequately preparing teachers for the reality of the education system. The harsh, true reality is the American public education system is crumbling as we speak. We need passionate, activist-hearted teachers right now more than ever. This generation of children is so anxious and lost and confused and scared, and they're being thrown ideologies left and right. Our children need us. Which leads me to my first point, compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is a real thing. Like I said, children are going through so much right now. And honestly, I feel a lot of compassion for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, even though it's like a nightmare to teach them. In between fearing for their lives, going through active shooter lockdowns, excessive screen time, little to no love or attention at home, like they're just overwhelmed. They're not planted in the right environment to grow. Like the stress these kids are under is stress that didn't even exist 5 or 10 years ago. I know some people talk down on Gen Z and Gen Alpha, calling them too emotional, weak, immature, but I just want to say this generation of children is much stronger than we think. But like I said, compassion fatigue is a real thing. But it means you care, and that's important because we need more teachers whose heart is fully in it. Teachers that recognize that teaching a lesson on CVC words or drafting an essay is not about writing a complete sentence. It's about closing the socioeconomic gap and giving our youth the tools and resources in order to succeed and start at the same point of the starting line as everyone else. Equity. But also, pick your battles. You can show up and do your best, but that's all you can do. If you didn't care at all, that would just be so crazy and weird and psychotic. Just make sure you take care of yourself too. You can't pour from an empty cup. There is a silent parenting crisis leading to the demise of our education system and subsequent mass teacher exodus. Okay, this is 100% what colleges are not going to prepare you for. I highly recommend, if you're in college and you're watching this video, take 1 or 2 or 5 child development or psychology or sociology courses just so you can understand what these children are going through. So you have the resources and strategies and knowledge to support these students just right in your back pocket. It will give you strategies to support high-risk students, students with attention-seeking behaviors, and students with mental health and developmental issues. There's literally so much that I could go into during this part of the video because A lot of teachers just feel so overwhelmed right now and completely powerless. Like, parents and teachers are not allies anymore. We can't rely on parents anymore to give children the necessary support at home that they receive in the classroom in order to help them become better students and better overall well-rounded individuals. Kids are wired right now for extrinsic motivation. Like, they have no internal drive right now, and that could be in part due to excessive screen time, overload of dopamine. There's just been so many classrooms that I've gone into where candy is used as a reward, like an instant reward, like Skittles, M&Ms, Twix, like whatever it might be. And it's just so sad because these children are not learning internal drive. They're not learning how to do something without a reward. And life is not always going to reward you. And that's something that students, like schools, have to prepare students for the real world. And if they expect a reward for doing bare minimum basic expectations, like they're going to be set up for failure because that's just what they're going to expect in the future. Like as teachers, we really have to be promoting like the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of happiness. It's a pursuit. It's not just instant gratification or like overnight you're just going to have everything you ever wanted and everything's just going to be easy because you did one thing. Their attention spans are completely fried from the sheer amount of content they're consuming at home. No, because this is literally what it's like.
I need to go to the bathroom.
I'm so hungry.
Arigato.
What the hell are you? What the hell are y'all doing? What the hell are you?
Type shit.
TSPMO. Greetings, fine.
When are we ever going to use this in real life?
For teachers or parents, I highly recommend that you buy and read the book The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. There's also an audiobook if you have Spotify. Highly recommend this book. Gives you a real insight into why we are the way we are, how children are developing based on years and years of research and psychology, and it's just kind of scary where we're headed. Mental health crises have skyrocketed. Phone addiction has rewired attention spans. And physical health is at a steady decline. I might sound like a doomer when I'm talking about all these things and it's all negative and like stressful, but like I just want to give you an honest and accurate depiction and how you can prepare for teaching in America right now, because it's just like there's so many disconnects. I'm telling you guys all these things because I just don't want you to be set up for failure, just so that you're not duped. Like, it's just the state of the education system right now. It's kind of scary, but yeah. One of my goals is to make enough noise and draw enough attention to these issues so we can actually see some real change enacted. We need more role models in the school, and especially male role models. We need men, like young boys, to be able to learn from men as well, to see men as not only determined and hardworking and masculine, but the balance between being able to educate and be patient and nurture. Of course, like men and women, we have a duality. Like you can be strong but firm, you can be nice and sweet, firm but sweet. Like it's just a balance, and I think we need to see more male representation in education. It's necessary for young men to be able to look up and learn from a man and see these qualities that they only believe should be present in a woman. And it's like society has everything so backwards right now. Children are growing up with this moral guidance that's just like they're learning from their phones. And in a society where hyper individualistic and unrealistic standards are pushed onto everyone, education is one of the few professions where teachers show up and are faced with like the raw reality of society. One of my favorite quotes is that classrooms are a microcosm of society. What we see in the classroom is just a reflection of society, of government, of the larger social community that we're going to be growing up into. Being a teacher right now is beautiful, but it's also so heartbreaking. And yet we persevere, waiting for everyone else to catch up and see it for what it is. And it can only be understood by those who have walked in our unsupported, underpaid, undervalued shoes. Like you try to talk to someone about the education system right now who's not teaching, and you try to tell them like everything that's going on and like the reality of it, and they just don't understand. Understandably, like it's just hard to explain the depth of everything. And as teachers, the only thing we can do is stick together, stand strong, and give up at nothing until our voices are heard. Basic phonics education is number one. In 2024, the National Assessment of Education Progress, which is essentially our nation's report card, revealed a really concerning trend. Less than 19% of students are meeting or exceeding state reading standards. And these statistics are not just numbers. They represent children in America who can't read or critically think for themselves. And research shows the predictors of student success, self-esteem, self-confidence, and more stem wholly from academic success. And largely, phonics education is really built and solidified K through 2. So if you're missing out on a strong education, you're not reading to your child at home, they're gonna have way more self-esteem issues, way more self-confidence issues, and of course that leads to more behaviors in the classroom. But despite these challenges, schools are looking to transition more towards a science of reading literacy program. And we're hearing more about the science of reading, and it's actually research that's based on thousands of studies on how children learn how to read. And phonics is largely that. It's the connection between sight and pronunciation. Undoubtedly, there's a national reading crisis. And we know this especially since the pandemic. Kids just haven't gotten back on track with reading or comprehension quite as quickly as they should. So if you're looking for a school to teach at and they're not promoting science of reading, I highly recommend you talk to your admin team and promote it. But the reality of the education system right now is that we're moving less towards the logical, science of reading based like concepts in education. And what education has become now is make sure every student feels seen and heard. Create a safe space for students where they feel they can express themselves, which is not a bad thing. It's just we're moving further away from the true intention of being a teacher, which is making sure our students are equipped with, again, the knowledge and resources in order to have a successful life as an adult, to be successful and independent, capable adults starting at the same part of the starting line. And it's taking away from critical opportunities to learn and teach. It's super important to acknowledge your students are children before they're a student, and that they need to feel safe and have their basic bottom of Maslow's hierarchy needs fulfilled. And so many college programs are pushing like this social emotional learning and these like very sound good, feel good pedagogies, and it's just not like in reality. Of course, we have to acknowledge that in the classroom. We have to acknowledge our children and their feelings, but we can't focus too much on it because we're here to teach and we're here to set our students up for success. And doing too much of that is just it's not our job responsibility. It's actually not our responsibility as teachers. Like that's what parents do at home or should do at home. That's what, counselors can do and creating that self-esteem. But it's just a lot of these problems would be fixed by solid academic success and focusing more on academic success. And it's hard. Like our responsibility is to show up and teach and of course like make the day fun and exciting for children to come learn and build an environment that promotes curiosity and exploration, that's inclusive and all the sorts. But we're supposed to teach a whole generation of children growing up in single parent households who are not getting enough love or attention, addicted to iPhones and tablets as young as like pre-K, and essentially parent them. There was a funny sticker I saw recently from bored teachers, and I put it up on the screen, but it's funny. Like, yeah, we're literally teachers, nurses, mentor, coach, counselor, comedian, entertainer, negotiator, event planner, and detective. Like, there's just so much that we do out of the love of our heart. Like we just want to help these children, but it's just like, imagine if all we had to do was teach. No, because that would be crazy if all we had to do was teach. So yeah, if a student does not build those foundational concepts of learning like phonics and just basic reading skills, it leads to a bunch of behavior issues and problems, because anything outside of reading like social studies, science, math, any other subject area or extracurricular, they're going to struggle with, because it's just simply going to be way too far out of the zone of proximal development. So in speaking about behaviors, now we're on my next point. Classroom management and routine setting is everything. Be objective, fair, and consistent. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but classroom management takes like 3 to 5 years to get down pat. But what I've learned is that if you are proactive about setting those routines, setting those expectations, and really following through for the first 2 months, at least by mid-year, students will have expectations and be in the swing of things. And you can focus on doing more fun things because you won't always be putting out fires. If you're not, you will be reactionary for classroom management for the rest of the school year or until they get it. So with that being said, be strict and ease up later on. That doesn't mean you have to be draconian, but focus on classroom routines and expectations before anything else. During that time in the beginning of the school year is when you can really build those relationships and build rapport with your students. Watch your veteran colleagues closely and emulate them. Don't be afraid to ask them to visit their classrooms. By the way, student teaching is just not the same as actually teaching in your classroom. It's just not. The learning curve is steep and you can only learn if you're thrown into the deep end. But yeah, I would recommend, let go of the idea of perfection, let go of the idea of one day going as planned, because it's just not the reality. But that's also the beautiful part about education is that everyone, like literally everyone, is constantly failing and trying again and trying again. The amount of growth you're going to witness in the four walls of a school is going to be so beautiful and rewarding. But yeah, just operate with an open mind. There's always going to be something new to learn. I read this poem in college, and it's a beautiful depiction of what I call viewing child behavior as a window rather than a mirror. It's such a beautiful, moving poem, and it perfectly exemplifies, like, you don't know what's going on with children when they go home. You don't know really what their home life looks like or what their behaviors are coming from, like why they're expressing such extreme behaviors or saying things that they shouldn't be saying or imitating inappropriate behavior. Children's behaviors are always a window, not a mirror. They don't always reflect the behaviors they're presenting, but rather a look into what may be going on inside. But also, ignore any and all attention-seeking behavior. This one is hard to discern, but then again, like I said, classroom management takes a couple years to get down. So working with your age group, you'll get a hang of it. And in the case that a behavior is bad enough to where you need to contact a parent, have the goal of making them an ally. Try to get parents on your side at the beginning of the school year. And this, of course, goes for elementary school. Send your parents 1 to 2 good news notes at the beginning of the school year, just building the rapport. And then by the time you settled in, do your best to get parents in through the door for parent-teacher conferences. Once you connect with your students' parents, you get a better idea of who they are just as an individual. It just does something where you understand them better. You know why they are the way they are, and it just gives a face to the name. And of course, this ties into my last point with classroom management, making them an ally. If there ever happens to be a scenario where there's a really tough situation, it helps when you have to bring up hard topics with them. So they can't just assume or accuse you of just not liking their child or targeting them. Also, what I would recommend is for you to send weekly emails of what was taught during the week, highlights of kind of new interesting units or topics, and of course, upcoming important dates. This will make parents feel more included and informed, and it'll encourage them to take an active role at home with their education. And this is where I recommend that teachers kind of squeeze in some research and white papers about the effects of screen time on our children's developing brains. I know at school we have children on laptops and iPads, at least K through 5. It's all one-to-one instruction in my school district. And they're on computers for minimum 4 hours a day on these edtech platforms. And although that's not as bad as being on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok and just doom scrolling, it's still a lot for their brains and their eyes. It's a lot for them. And we have to be mindful that not all parents are up to date with all of this research. Teachers are seeing the negative impact of too much screen time. We're seeing the consequences. The harsh reality of public school is that a lot of the time, children spend more time at school with their teacher than they do at home, especially if they have extracurriculars. We're around their children more than they are. It's a harsh reality. And so we are seeing those direct, negative effects. I've seen a child pinch to zoom a textbook picture before. That's crazy. But if you have bad news, hamburger it, okay? Good, bad, good. You're all set. So my last point is leave work at work. Try your best to mentally clock out around 4 or 5. I don't think this is possible for new teachers, but at least give yourself most of your weekend and a reasonable cutoff time in the evening. Like I said earlier on in the video, you cannot pour from an empty cup. No is sometimes a complete answer. And chances are you're watching this video because you're the type of person that prioritizes self-improvement, which signals that you're also someone who's very dedicated. Naturally, you're gonna wanna spend 10 to 12 hours a day clocking in at 6 a.m. and not stopping till 5 or 6 p.m. Lesson planning, organizing, reflecting, strategizing, re-strategizing. But listen, nobody knows what they're doing the first year. Everyone is convinced they're blowing it. But like any new job, there's a learning curve. And in education, the learning curve is just so steep. And working 10 to 12 hour days, 60 hours a week, isn't gonna do anything other than burn you out and make you incapable of giving your 100%. Hang in there. It really does start to get easier. Maybe one thing that will help you reframe your perspective if you're struggling, this isn't your first year teaching. This is your first semester learning how to teach. So treat yourself like a student and give yourself some grace. Know that the first few years are going to be extremely difficult and there's going to be a lot of failure. There will be success. But all you can do is just do your best. And remember that all the people who talk about how easy it must be to be a teacher have literally never done it. It's just so sad because in America, so many people hold this like elitist, condescending attitude towards teachers, saying those who cannot do, teach. We really have to reframe like how we're viewing teachers in America, because it's honestly like, it's so sad. Those people say that because they've been taught how to read and think, and they can use their brains because they had a good teacher. They had a series of good teachers sacrificing for them and dedicating their career to helping them grow up as well-rounded people. So at the end of the day, remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You're gonna have some days where the kids are just not cooperating, they're super squirrely, but it's part of the job. And it's gonna be like a little blip in the school year once you look back. And if you can walk away from the day knowing that at least one child is a little bit smarter than when they first walked into that building, then you did good. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something valuable, or found any of the tips that I provided as helpful to you on your journey. If there's anything I left out, or you feel like there's something that you wanna communicate to other teachers, comment down below. I would love to read your comments, and I'm sure a bunch of other teachers would love to share their experiences as well. Okay, with that being said, bye.